President Trump has issued a firm warning to BRICS nations, demanding they abandon any plans to support or develop a rival currency to the U.S. dollar. Reasserting his commitment to preserving the dollar's position as the world's dominant reserve currency, Trump made it clear that any attempt to challenge the dollar would be met with severe economic consequences, including 100% tariffs and a complete cutoff from the American market. He has repeatedly stated that BRICS has no chance of replacing the dollar in global trade, and has made it clear that countries pushing for alternatives should prepare for economic retaliation. Still, BRICS countries, particularly Brazil, are moving forward with plans aimed at reducing reliance on the dollar. Brazil, currently holding the group's rotating presidency, is leading efforts to streamline cross-border payments using local currencies. These reforms are designed to make trade more efficient, reduce transaction costs, and build financial independence. The strategy includes adopting technologies like blockchain and enhancing payment system connectivity. Brazil is drawing from the success of its domestic instant payment platform PIX, which has quickly surpassed traditional payment methods since its launch in late 2020. In parallel, Brazil operates the SML, local currency payment system, which allows direct trade settlements in reais with countries such as Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay, bypassing the US dollar entirely. While transactions through SML currently take several days to process, plans are underway to integrate faster payment technologies to improve speed, security, and cost-effectiveness. BRICS leaders are set to meet in South Africa later this month during G20 meetings, where Brazil will present its agenda for the July BRICS summit. With recent expansions including Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, the bloc is growing in both economic influence and ambition. One of its major goals is to create a more autonomous financial framework that reduces dependence on Western-controlled systems. The US dollar's dominant role in the global economy has deep roots. Following World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 established the dollar as the backbone of the international monetary system. Other currencies were pegged to the dollar, and the dollar was tied to gold. This system brought post-war financial stability and helped make the dollar central to global trade. Although the gold standard ended in 1971 under President Nixon, the dollar maintained its dominance thanks to the strength of the U.S. economy, deep financial markets, and the rise of the petrodollar system, which ensured that oil was priced and traded in dollars. Trump's statements reflect growing U.S. concern over de-dollarization efforts gaining traction worldwide. If large economies begin shifting trade to other currencies or establish a viable competitor to the dollar, the U.S. could face reduced demand for treasury bonds, rising borrowing costs, and diminished global influence. A successful challenge to the dollar's dominance would reshape international finance and weaken one of America's most powerful tools of economic leverage. BRICS nations have already taken notable steps in this direction. In 2023, China and Brazil reached an agreement to conduct trade in their own currencies, the yuan and the real, cutting out the need for the US dollar entirely. With trade between the two nations reaching $150 billion in 2022, the shift is expected to lower conversion costs, reduce currency risk, and strengthen financial independence. Meanwhile, Iran and Russia have deepened financial ties by integrating their banking systems. In early 2023, they connected their national payment networks, enabling Iranian banks to access Russian financial institutions, and over 100 banks across multiple countries through Russia's SPFS system, a homegrown alternative to SWIFT. This setup allows both countries to conduct international financial transactions, such as letters of credit and fund transfers, without relying on Western-controlled infrastructure. By July 2024, Iran had integrated its Shaitab network with Russia's Mir payment system, allowing Russian cards to be used in Iran and boosting business and tourism transactions. These moves reflect a coordinated push by BRICS members to build a more independent financial ecosystem. While the US dollar still holds the top position in global trade and finance, the momentum behind alternative systems is growing. The direction BRICS is taking could have long-term consequences for the balance of global economic power, making it a key issue for leaders and analysts to monitor closely. Iran and Russia have taken another step toward deeper financial integration by allowing Iranian bank cards to be used in Russia. This makes payment processing and cash withdrawals much easier for Iranian citizens abroad, while tightening commercial ties between the two countries. In a similar shift, India and Russia have increasingly turned to their local currencies, the Indian rupee and the Russian ruble, for trade, especially after Western sanctions were imposed on Russia in 2022. By 2023, Russia had become India's top supplier of crude oil, with a significant portion of transactions completed in rupees. This allowed both nations to move away from dollar-based payment systems and protect themselves from external financial pressures. South Africa, the smallest economy in the BRICS group, has also been moving in the same direction by conducting more trade in Chinese yuan. China remained South Africa's largest trading partner in 2023, with trade volume exceeding $50 billion. That year, South Africa signed deals to pay for specific imports, mainly electronics and machinery, in yuan. This not only reduced its dependence on the dollar, but also helped boost the yuan's presence in African markets. To support these broader financial shifts, the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, developed BRICS Pay, a decentralized payment platform that facilitates cross-border transactions in local currencies. Launched in 2018 by the BRICS Business Council, the system is designed to reduce reliance on Western financial networks like SWIFT and promote greater financial independence among member nations. BRICS Pay connects national payment systems such as Russia's Mir, India's UPI, and China's Union Pay, creating a more efficient and cost-effective way to send and receive payments. The platform is built on advanced blockchain technology, combining centralized structures for domestic transactions with a decentralized model for international ones. This hybrid approach ensures security, transparency, and compliance with national regulations, while also allowing real-time, peer-to-peer payments across borders. Smart contracts handle currency conversions and automate compliance procedures, and distributed ledger technology guarantees permanent, tamper-proof transaction records. BRICS Pay is designed to be scalable and flexible, able to support growing transaction volumes and integrate new countries or systems. Its interoperability ensures smooth connections between different national frameworks, making cross-border trade seamless and efficient. Real-time settlements in local currencies improve liquidity and reduce transaction costs. By encouraging the use of local currencies in international trade, BRICS Pay helps reduce dependence on the US dollar and contributes to building a more balanced global financial system. It gives member countries more control over their financial systems and strengthens their ability to withstand sanctions and global market volatility. The platform was formally introduced at the 16th BRICS Summit in Kazan, Russia, in October 2024. During the summit, participants saw demonstrations of its capabilities and potential as an alternative to traditional financial networks. Alongside this initiative, BRICS nations have also focused on increasing their gold reserves as part of a broader strategy to boost financial sovereignty and reduce exposure to currency risk. By mid-2024, BRICS countries had accumulated around 6,200 tons of gold, about 21.4% of the world's total reserves. Russia led the group with 2,240 tons, followed closely by China with 2,260 tons. Brazil nearly tripled its gold holdings between 2018 and 2024, signaling a strong commitment to economic resilience. This stockpiling of gold reflects a clear strategy: diversify monetary reserves, reduce vulnerability to foreign sanctions, and gain more independence in monetary policy. For BRICS, gold is more than just a safe asset. It's a cornerstone in their push for a more sovereign, multipolar financial future. The growing push by BRICS nations to stockpile gold and establish independent financial systems isn't just about protecting their economies. It's a clear signal of a broader shift toward a multipolar global monetary order. Increasing gold reserves and launching initiatives like BRICS Pay are strategic moves aimed at reducing dependence on Western-dominated financial structures. These efforts reflect a commitment to building a self-reliant and resilient economic ecosystem, one capable of withstanding global market volatility while challenging the dominance of the US dollar and institutions tied to it. By coordinating on gold accumulation and the development of decentralized payment systems, BRICS countries are laying the groundwork for a more stable, independent, and inclusive global financial framework. This movement is deeply connected to the larger trend of de-dollarization, where nations seek to limit their reliance on the US dollar in global trade and finance. At the core of this shift is the desire to protect national sovereignty and regain monetary control. The dollar's dominance gives the US outsized influence over the global economy, often exposing other nations to the ripple effects of American policy decisions. Reducing this reliance is seen as a way to restore economic autonomy and shield national economies from external shocks and geopolitical pressure, such as US-led sanctions that can block access to international financial systems. Countries like Russia and China are actively exploring alternatives to maintain control over their economic destinies and ensure freedom from such restrictions. Another key motivation is reserve diversification. For decades, central banks around the world have kept much of their reserves in US dollars. But now there's a growing move toward holding a wider mix of currencies, and gold. This approach spreads risk and gradually erodes the dollar's central role. Political and strategic factors also play a role, as global powers seek to expand the international use of their own currencies. By conducting trade in local currencies through bilateral and regional agreements, like the one between China and Brazil, nations can reduce conversion costs and bypass the dollar altogether. These moves reflect the changing dynamics of the global economy, where emerging markets now play a more significant role and are reshaping financial norms to match their rising influence. In response to these developments, former President Donald Trump has issued sharp warnings, particularly targeting the BRICS alliance. Posting on Truth Social, Trump demanded that BRICS nations pledge not to pursue or support any rival currency that could threaten the dollar's supremacy. He warned that failure to comply would result in 100% tariffs and total exclusion from the U.S. market. Throughout his campaign, Trump has promised to make it economically painful for countries that move away from the dollar. His team is reportedly evaluating additional penalties, including labeling nations as currency manipulators, restricting exports, and slapping on higher trade tariffs, all aimed at preserving U.S. financial dominance. Trump's stance is consistent with his previous use of tariffs as economic leverage. He's made it clear that he views any attempt to bypass the dollar as a direct challenge to American interests. The urgency of this issue intensified following the 2023 BRICS summit, where member countries openly discussed reducing reliance on the dollar. Momentum for alternative currencies had already been building, especially after the 2022 sanctions against Russia, which sparked widespread frustration over the dollar's monopoly in international finance. As Trump positions himself for a return to the White House, his campaign has placed heavy emphasis on pushing back against this global trend. His recent threats to impose a 10% tariff on Chinese imports and a 25% duty on Mexican and Canadian goods are part of a broader strategy to pressure governments into aligning with U.S. financial interests. These measures are also tied to other issues, like border security and anti-drug policies, showing how Trump intertwines economic policy with geopolitical objectives. In a recent meeting, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau engaged with Trump over these concerns, hinting at ongoing negotiations. But the underlying message remains clear. Trump is prepared to use economic tools aggressively to protect the dollar's dominance. Despite these warnings, the BRICS nations continue moving forward with their plans to build a new financial infrastructure. The possibility of launching an alternative currency has already sent ripples through the global financial system. These actions represent not just economic strategy, but a philosophical shift, a call for a more balanced, inclusive global order. For decades, the U.S. has benefited enormously from the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, enjoying lower borrowing costs and powerful influence in global markets. But as more countries challenge this model, the foundational advantages of the American financial system are at risk. Trump has voiced concern that coordinated efforts by BRICS could erode the very core of U.S. economic power. He's warned countries in the global south about the consequences of aligning too closely with BRICS, threatening strained ties and economic fallout. Still, for many nations, the appeal of a fairer and more autonomous financial system is stronger than the fear of U.S. retaliation. The world is at a turning point, one where the rules of global finance are being rewritten. The BRICS initiative is more than a challenge to the dollar. It's a declaration of independence. It's a collective demand for a new economic era, one where influence isn't concentrated in a single currency or country, but distributed more fairly among all players. Whether this vision becomes reality remains to be seen, but the momentum is undeniable. Thanks for tuning in. If this topic sparked your interest or helped you see the global financial landscape in a new light, we'd love your support. Please like, subscribe, and stay connected with our channel. Your engagement keeps us going. Another video is now on the screen. Dive in and keep exploring these pivotal global shifts with us.